Today's video, I'm going to be covering the whole entire market in terms of the S&P 500, Dow Jones, Nasdaq, economic calendar, crude oil, 10-year treasury, investor sentiment, all that stuff. And at the same time, I'm going to be going over the S&P or SPY for the S&P 500 in terms of ETF, QQQ, doing technical analysis in terms of levels, support levels, movement, so on and so forth. So hopefully you guys like the video. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you do, consider dropping a like. Helps out the channel, so thank you so much for that. And if you want to be notified when I do upload my daily videos basically for the market, consider subscribing so be notified when I do upload those videos. Now, in terms of the investor sentiment, it has gone down in terms of bullish sentiment. So before, on April 3rd, it was 47.3% for bullish sentiment, and now it's decreased to 43.4% as of April 10th. And then in terms of neutral sentiment, it was 30.5, increased to 32.5, and the bearish sentiment from 22.2% to 24%. So the bearish sentiment slash negative side has increased slightly, but still overall optimistic. In terms of crude oil, which plays a role because in terms of CPI, in terms of inflation numbers, one of the biggest factors was energy costs going up. And the reason why crude oil is important is because that increases the transportation cost for goods. Obviously, the producers could be eating up the cost with the margins they have, but if it increases substantially, then that cost usually tends to pass down to the consumers, right? So crude oil, it's $85.76 per barrel, and then we have 10-year treasury at 4.536%. Quick thing, like always, I'm not a professional, so please do your own due diligence and research before buying and selling. And then in terms of economic calendar, before I get into the economic calendar, for the analysis part, I kind of feel like, but from what I've seen, we could be technically going up on April 15th, which I'm going to read the economic calendar for. And the analysis I do is not just for April 15th. It kind of goes out trajectory for the long term somewhat. But because we have some kind of, what is called, issues happening in like the Middle East and everything, it could, even though it's kind of showing that we might be bouncing on Monday to the upside, it could get pulled down because whatever news might be happening out of nowhere for breakout development stuff, right? So just be aware of that for some uncertainties. So April 15th at 2:30 a.m., Dallas Fed President Lori Logan speaks in Tokyo. At 8:30 a.m., so all these are going to be 8:30 a.m. before the trading bell. Empire State Manufacturing Survey, it previously was 20.96%, expecting about negative 10%. U.S. retail sales, 0.6%. Previously expecting now 0.3% this time around. Retail sales minus autos 0.3 previously, and then 0.5% this time around. Then at 8:30 as well this time, New York Fed President John Williams TV appearance. 10 a.m. business investors inventory is at 0.0% previously, 0.4% this time around. And home builders confidence index 51, then that was previously, and this time 51 as well. 8 p.m., San Francisco Fed President Mary Daly speaks. And in terms of the market, okay, so now in terms of the overall market, in terms of S&P 500, Dow Jones, Nasdaq, and all that stuff, and I'm going to cover the SPY for ETF for S&P 500 and QQQ, which is the ETF for the Nasdaq. If you look right here for the SPY, we're at $510.85. We had a downward trend resistance line, got knocked down, and then we came down. Could be bouncing off the $508 price point, give or take. The only thing is, though, because of uncertainty in the Middle East with tensions and all that stuff, could break through that level and head down to 504 points. And with the VIX technically slowing down, so the VIX did spike up, which is increased volatility, which tends to mean that the markets will hypothetically like go on a sell-off a little bit, somewhat. It amplifies the sell-offs, right? That's basically what's happening. Then with it slowing down, so the VIX is showing, like, for example, slow down, it's going to be crossing over to the negative, which would be a drop in volatility. Then hypothetically, the bounce off could happen at $508 and go to the upside. And then if we do bounce back up and it's a good day, it go up to $517, $518, give or take. Not exactly, obviously, it'd probably get close, but $517. If we were to drop down again, because this S&P 500 is not really the tech sector, it would be about $504.70, right? We could obviously go lower, just like, for example, in the 5-year chart, right about here, you see, like I stated before in the past, we had an upward trend resistance line, plus within the channel, support levels, all stuff. Since 2010, we've been within this channel, and then currently right now, we're midway, but it shows that we're crossing over to the bearish territories, a bearish movement soon, because right now we're in the bullish, but it's trying to cross over to the bearish. And then if you look at the 1-year chart, we're already in bearish movement for the most part. For that's a little bit long term, but I want to cover the QQQ because that doesn't mean that the markets will be going down fully, if that makes sense. Because for QQQ, which is ETF for Nasdaq, same thing within the channel, broke through 2020 and then 2022, so during the pandemic, but then came down, stuck underneath the channel. But if you look at 2014 to 2015, yeah, it was underneath the upward trend resistance line, keywords upward trend resistance line. So the market still went up hypothetically. Not hypothetically, it literally did. So 2014, 2015, it actually still went up nonetheless, right? So same thing could happen. But right now, in terms of the movement, MACD line, it's showing that we have crossed into the bearish movement right now. And we're just getting started in terms of bearish movement. 1 year chart as well, bearish movement as well. Now, before I break the QQQ, just because the Dow Jones is pretty quick, I'm going to go back to QQ right after this. But if you look at the 5-year chart, in terms of the resistance and support levels, right now we've hit upward trend resistance level right now and heading down, bearish movement for 5-year chart, and then the 1 year chart, bearish movement as well. The only thing is, though, in terms of Monday, I still think that we will technically be going up because the VIX is dropping lower. But again, with the tensions of the Middle East and all stuff, technically it could be going lower. Right now for the QQQ, let's see right about here. So same thing, we had a downward trend resistance line. So zoom in, right, for the most part. Downward trend resistance line had a false breakout and headed down to the levels of $436, $435. Now we could bounce up out these levels again with the lower VIX hypothetically potentially being lower in terms of volatility, but the uncertainties and all stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if we trickle down to support levels of $433. Then ultimately within the next few trading days, it'll be going down to $422, right? But I don't think that necessarily that would happen all in one day to drop it down to 422. I think it'd be about two to 3 days. But if we were to go back up, which I think would be going to downward trend resistance line and hitting it one more time, at least one more time, or if not breaking through it and all stuff, I think we'd be heading up to $444. But we'll see what happens. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you guys liked it. If you do, consider dropping a like. Appreciate it. Thanks again. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.